Hi everyone and welcome to week 3. In week 3 right here, you're going to be reviewing chapter 5 and you're going to have My Econ Lab 1 and quiz number 1. So for this week, you'll be needing to log into My Econ Lab, and the information for My Econ Lab is located in the announcements for you. Make sure to review the instructions in My Econ Lab, and if you have any questions, to contact the Pearson Help Desk, as they can be able to assist. So for this week, I have your readings to review. I have some documents on chapter 5 with regard to the teaching summaries. I have some various videos right here for you to review and some ancillary materials as well. And I think all of these will provide a good basis for your understanding of what we're looking at for this week. So for this week, we're looking at uncertainty and consumer behavior. We're going to be trying to figure out how consumers respond to the role of risk and how risk influences a lot of decisions that we have to make. You'll notice that there's a lot of calculations of risk, and the variability is something that we have to focus on, because the variability looks at different events and how we make decisions based off of those different events. Now, we'll be calculating standard deviation in a couple. Oh, sorry about that. We're going to be looking at the role of utility and how utility focuses on our role of how we understand risk. And you'll notice that a lot of people evaluate risk in a lot of things that they do. And when they evaluate risk, that creates a lot of challenges in our economy. Because risk is something that we have to look at when we look at our utility, and that's very important to evaluate. You'll notice as we have differences towards risk as well, and from this graph you can evaluate these differences. You have people that are risk adverse, risk loving, and risk neutral. And this is the difference between utility and income, and there's a difference between those. So those are some of the concepts that you're going to be focusing on in week 3. Now, let's go over some of the quiz questions that you might see that'll be helpful for your analysis. Now, here's some of the questions that you'll see. The expected value is a measure of what? The weighted average of all possible outcomes of a project. So these are going to be basic definitions. Which one do we not associate with risk of an investment? The variance of an investment opportunity, what is that? Question 5, I'm going to be giving you 2 scenarios, and you tell me if they're true and false, the scenarios. In question 6, you're looking at probability statements, and we're going to describe the events as they only can happen once. And probability statements like these are based on what type of assumptions? Question 7 is looking at to optimally deter crime, law enforcement authorities should do what? Question 8 is looking at 2 investment opportunities. You're going to evaluate the role of risk. Question 9 is looking at the risk premium that applies to a person. What is that classified? A risk premium. Question 10 is looking at John's utility and what this information represents. Question 11 is looking at probability of a situation and who is more risk adverse or more risk loving at the risk preferences. Question 12 is going to be looking at a risk adverse individual and what they prefer. And it's going to be on question 13 is another example of what a risk adverse individual prefers. Question 14 is going to be looking at 2 upward sloping utility curves with income on the horizontal axis. The steeper the curve represents what? It's that last graph we focused on. Question 15 is going to be looking at expected income. What is that going to be a direct measure of? Question 16 is going to be a person with diminishing marginal utility of income. What will that include in terms of risk? When a person has constant marginal utility of income, that was based on that graph we looked at previous. What is diversification? You'll notice diversification is very important to the role of risk because it reduces the amount of risk that is available. Question 19, which one is generally not accepted as a means of reducing risk? 20 is looking at the law of large numbers. 21 is looking at the demand curve for stock. 22 is looking at which of the following assets is almost riskless. 23 is looking at a reference point. 23 is going to be looking at the analysis of a tendency of individuals when we assign higher values to goods, when they own the goods, when they do not have to possess the goods. What is that known? And question 25 is going to be looking at an example of a 20% gratuity will be added to all checks for parties of 6 or more. What is this common statement or statement looking at? What is this concept focused on? So for this week, you have one attempt on your quiz. You have 60 minutes, but make sure to take advantage of reviewing what we went over. And if you have any questions, please let me know. But I look forward to your effort this week.